Hello everybody, my name is DJGT and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about some of the leaks and insider information about some of the goings on in EA, DICE and Star Wars Battlefront 2 in general. Before we get into the video, please do consider subscribing to stay up to date with everything Star Wars and Star Wars Battlefront 2 related. Anyway, on with the video. Now, a lot of the stuff that I've been reading and, some of these leaks, they're not the best of things. They will make you really sad when reading them, because it sort of just shows, wasted and squandered potential from EA and DICE. The lack of, communication between the three studios that are also involved, and just some of the stuff that have been happening with upper management with EA, which isn't necessarily the most professional and progressive of a company of their stature, size and profitability. Now, the main things that have been discussed is, after the amount of hate and the amount of discussion that was brought around after the microtransaction fiasco, a lot of things had to be put on hold, and that also has to do with the stuff that happened when everyone was going on about Vader and Luke being 60,000 credits and taking ages to be able to work up to just one of them. There was also the progression system that also needed to be revamped. There was a lot of stuff that had to be redone because of, just poor planning in the first place. The initial reason why EA went after a microtransaction and loot box sort of system is because it was inspired by systems such as Overwatch, which saw, even though they were paying for a fully priced game, they could also put out a lot more money. They could also put out a lot more content and bring in more money for a smaller amount of content. So, with not having to pay for DLC and just primarily having a microtransaction system, which unfortunately wasn't presented in a good way, that would mean that people would want to, actually put money into the game, is sort of shameful. They basically did the microtransaction system as a more of a get-rich-quick scheme instead of a long-term monetary option. Like the last game's DLC, although it did divide the player base, there was not as much, people crying about everything, as in, there wasn't enough DLCs coming and there wasn't enough communication with the community, because a lot of the time there was. We knew the DLCs that were coming up, not just from EA official platforms, but also from leaks, which is some of the stuff that I'm going to be going through with the game in the rest of this video. And EA they missed the mark on this game, definitely. The plan from the very beginning with EA was to make more money than give the same amount of DLC for free. So basically, it's not them necessarily caring or understanding their community. It's more, we can make more money doing less work, just by this massive leak thread that has been done by this Battlefront skin leaks guy. He's a fairly reputable, but take with a grain of salt sort of leaker, because what happened was that he leaked the Bausch, or the Boosh, whatever the hell, and the Lando Skiff skin 2 days before it was actually supposed to be, announced on official channels, and before any other leakers had done it, which sort of, with a lot of his post history stuff, had ultimately ratified and sort of given a little bit more weight to the things that he was saying. Supposedly, he is an ex-insider and developer for EA. He obviously has a lot of in-look on some of the things that EA and DICE are actually doing. A lot of the time, what is actually happening is that you have managers and community directors and community managers and social and community managers basically understanding what the entirety of the community want by going on Reddit, Twitter, forums, all of this stuff, but any of the information that they are giving up to the actual proper managers and the higher-ups of management of DICE specifically, a lot of them discard a lot of the information that are given to them, just for the simple fact that the post-launch team right now, it's incredibly small for a scope and the greatness of a game that Star Wars Battlefront 2 is, the amount of people playing it, the amount of people interested in it, the amount of people looking into the future of the game. And for the future of the game, after all of this microtransaction stuff, after all of this just hate, and, well, some of it was well-founded hate, but hate nonetheless towards Battlefront 2, a lot of this stuff has caused Battlefront 2 to go on its back foot. Because ultimately what I read from this post is that a lot of stuff like Droidekas, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Grievous, Utapau, Geonosis, Padme, and Jango were all pushed back. As in, they're not being developed as much, and they're not being given as much attention as they would have been, seeming after all of this debacle that had gone on. Dennis ultimately, when he was teasing all of this stuff in July, wasn't lying when he was teasing all this Clone Wars stuff, because the Clone Wars stuff was supposed to be scheduled for the arrival in February or March, which would have meant that we wouldn't have had a 5-month DLC gap as we had between The Last Jedi and the Solo DLC. We would have gotten the majority of the Clone Wars skins and a new Utapau map to be playing around with in the meantime before the, well, pre-designed, predestined by Lucasfilm Solo DLC. Now, effectively, if the microtransaction problem had not happened, and if so much attention was brought to the amount of stuff that EA and DICE were doing with Battlefront 2, we would have got this on the time that they were scheduled. The progression system would have been pushed back beyond the Obi-Wan and Grievous thing, then Solo would have, well, effectively held at the same state, and you would have a bigger post-launch team, because people in EA and DICE were being moved around and rescheduled to be doing different projects as a result of, well, not as much money as they were expecting to get from Star Wars Battlefront 2, because in an earnings call at the end of Q3, I do believe, one of the EA and DICE developers or design managers, I can't quite remember, but one of them basically stated that one of the reasons why we weren't getting as much immediate content for Battlefront 2 is because it underperformed in terms of, well, sales. It was expected to break the $10 million mark for sales in March, I do believe it was, but by that point it had underperformed by over $1 million, and because the microtransaction system was also pulled out at that point, because everyone was getting annoyed that effectively it was a pay to win or pay for a chance to win system, and that it wasn't, you know, put around a cosmetic system, everyone understandably got very, very pissed. And because everyone got pissed, understandably, we didn't get the Clone Wars season at the time that we were expecting it. We weren't going to be getting a Geonosis season in August at the time that we were expecting it. What is most likely to be happening now, because Obi-Wan and Grievous was further into development than the Solo and the Geonosis season, I'd imagine that would either come in August or September. Furthermore, as a result of the microtransaction controversy, it also does seem that the sporadic dumping of old Battlefront 2015 maps and cosmetics and other assets from the old game back into this game is so that people don't leave the game, as a result of the lack of ability to release an immediate seasonal DLC immediately after The Last Jedi, effectively, because it would have only been a month gap. They've had to pad that out with Bespin and Jabba's Palace. Most likely they will have a bunch more maps. I'd imagine Scarif would eventually be coming back, but they have to pad out this game with smaller maps from the old game as a result of this microtransaction controversy. And as a result of all of this, about everyone complaining, we ultimately are not getting the game that, well, was heralded from the rooftops would improve on Star Wars Battlefront 1, and it's a depressing situation, honestly. We could have actually gotten a good Star Wars Battlefront 2 game, but because of EA's, well, emphasis on wanting to make a massive amount of money instead of, you know, actually bringing out a good game and then, you know, putting the secondary monetary values of microtransactions afterwards, and actually have a cosmetic based microtransaction system like Overwatch and Fortnite both have, ultimately, we didn't get that game. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I've been DJGT. Please like, share, and subscribe. Really do hope that you guys have enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. Please, as a reminder, a lot of this stuff is not necessarily confirmed. The leaker isn't 100% accurate, but there we go. Please put your opinions and comments down in the comment section below. I will look forward to reading them and discussing it with you guys. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and may the force be with you, always.